Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joe Downey. I'm a coordinator on the Strong Cities Network, and I'm pleased to formally welcome you all to the SCN's 5-year anniversary virtual event. Before we begin today's session, I'd like to run through a little bit of housekeeping. Please make yourselves comfortable. The first thing to mention is that this event is now being recorded, so please bear that in mind when asking and responding to questions. We will also be sending out a few simple polls throughout the webinar to get some basic information from you and to keep you on your toes. The first one of these should be on your screens now. These will be up for a short while only and will be anonymous. Please feel free to make full use of the chat box and the Q&A functions throughout the event to ask questions of the panelists and of the SCN team. You can find that at the bottom of your screens. Following the main event, we will be holding an optional question and answer session with the Strong Cities Network team. So if you're able to, I would very much encourage you to stick around for that. You'll be most welcome to ask questions directly to the team. And with that out the way, I am pleased to begin this webinar with a short video about the Strong Cities Network and some of the incredible work that our city members have accomplished in the last 5 years.
By 2050, almost 70% of the world's population will live in urban areas. Rapid urbanization has made cities vulnerable to new and rising threats, from political violence and terror attacks to increases in hate crime and online disinformation. Today's challenges are both global priorities and local realities. Cities have a vital role to play in addressing hate, polarisation and extremism, and no city should have to face these threats alone. Since we launched in 2015, the Strong Cities Network has helped connect local leaders, frontline workers, community actors, youth and field workers to work together for change. With almost 150 members worldwide, together we form a family, a global support network, and a knowledge exchange for cities, building communities that stand together in the face of those who try to tear them apart. In 5 years, we've worked with more than 100 mayors and 5,000 local officials, helping them to adapt to their local risks, strengths, and most importantly, unique powers. We have forged alliances which have not previously existed between cities, local communities, and national governments. We provide first-of-their-kind methodologies that can be replicated and tailored around the world. Our local prevention models builds multi-agency working and now operates in cities across the Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, and the Western Balkans, integrating more than 100 frontline practitioners, services, and volunteers into locally led prevention efforts. Our Young Cities programme creates partnerships between young people and local government, launching youth-led shared solutions to communities' challenges. Over 200 youth have worked to launch 25 powerful change-making campaigns across Lebanon, Kenya and Senegal, reaching over 1.5 million people online. Led by a formidable group of leading mayors spanning megacities and states, as well as smaller municipalities and counties, we take city leadership to the international stage, influencing global policy at the highest levels, from the United Nations to the Global Counter-Terrorism Forum. Membership provides cities with the latest cutting-edge policy toolkits, research and training modules available freely on our online hub. Our Hate and Extremism Mapper provides members with digital data observatories, enabling them to correlate online risks with offline behaviour. When national and local governments, international organisations, businesses and civil society unite behind a common goal, real change is possible. Join us in creating resilient, thriving, peaceful, and above all, strong cities.
Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to you all on behalf of the Institute for Strategic Dialogue and also on behalf of the government co-host for this Strong Cities anniversary event that we're holding here today. Firstly, to our partners at the US Department for State, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Denmark, the Kenyan National Counter-Terrorism Center, and the Lebanon National PVE Coordination Unit. A special thanks to you for co-hosting this event today. I want to acknowledge the extraordinary value you each bring to the work of the Strong Cities Network. Your support, together with that of the Norwegian and Dutch Ministries of Foreign Affairs and the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, has been and continues to be absolutely critical to our ability to deliver the important programs of the SCN day in, day out, and around the world. The work touched on in the video that we've just seen simply wouldn't be possible without this support, and we are deeply grateful. I'm also bowled over and gratified by the amazing turnout that we have here online today. I'd like to welcome all of you, our distinguished audience from around the world, including founding members and partners who've worked tirelessly since we launched. Representatives of cities I know we have with us today, from London to Chair, Dakar South to Oslo, Dakar to Stockholm, Montreal to Malaga, LA to The Hague, and many more. And we are so grateful for your efforts and for being with us here today. 5 years ago, almost to this very date, I had the great honor of sitting alongside Mayor de Blasio of New York and 24 other global mayors on the occasion of the 70th UN General Assembly to launch the Strong Cities Network, the first global network of its kind dedicated to powering and to sharing local solutions to the rising tide of extremism and polarization. 5 years later, as you can see from the video we have just shared with you, we are proud of the progress that this network has made. Now a network of over 140 cities across more than 45 countries spanning every major global region, delivering the tools, the training, the resources, and the on-the-ground programming wherever we can to support effective city-led responses to hate, polarization, and extremism in all its forms. We've built collaboration across sectors and levels of government and have directly engaged or trained over 5,000 professionals and community leaders, including 750 city officials and over 100 mayors. We are grateful for these partnerships. But we gather here today in extraordinary and completely unprecedented circumstances. COVID-19 is making greater and more challenging demands of local leaders than ever. Cities, towns, and urban areas are facing a public health crisis of historic proportions alongside devastating economic and social fallout. At the same time, efforts to sustain cohesion are undermined by a proliferation of dangerous mis- and disinformation threatening not only the health of citizens, but also fostering suspicion and division between communities. It is in this context that the Strong Cities Network mayors are issuing today a call for action and support. I'd love to have your attention drawn to this. I know it's been sent out to those of you participating, but it is a call for support that asks, among other things, for more support to efforts that comprehensively track dangerous disinformation, for the sharing of analysis with partners to inform and empower grassroots civic and local responses to these international threats. It is a call for support to improved cooperation and collaboration between national and local efforts to enable coordinated, effective, and sustainable prevention, resilience efforts at this time. And it is a call for further support to equip the mayors and governors and city leaders that we convene here with the Strong Cities Network with the means and the resources and the capabilities that these threats and circumstances require. We will be publishing this call for support live on the SCN website immediately following these opening remarks, and I would ask you all to tweet it, share it widely so that it gets the attention, and so that the mayors that drive this work at the local level get the attention and publicity that they so need and deserve. We look forward to exploring some of these issues here today with an esteemed panel of SCN mayors. It goes without saying that in this context, the work of the Strong Cities Network has only intensified. Cities and communities have never been more at the coalface of these issues. My colleague, Becky Skellett, who leads our Strong Cities Network efforts, will share what lies ahead for the SCN a bit later, but this does include equipping cities to cope with these emerging threats We look forward, for instance, to launching a work stream on the intersection between COVID disinformation and extremism. And I'm thrilled to announce today, with a view to supporting our extraordinary local leaders in these unprecedented times, a special dialogue that will take place at the end of this year for our mayors with His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, to learn more about the urgency of compassionate leadership. We have a wonderful lineup of speakers today and a program that will look not only at what the network has achieved to date, but how much needs still to be done, how much support is required, and the activities that the network will undertake now over the coming 5 years. And so without further ado, I turn to our first distinguished guest speaker. I'm very grateful to have with us. The US State Department has been a great advocate for cities in the response to extremism and was fundamental to the launch of the Strong Cities Network in 2015 and has supported its activities since. We are grateful to you for your continued partnership, and I am delighted to introduce Mr. Christopher Harnisch, Deputy Coordinator for Countering Violent Extremism at the US Department of State. Mr. Harnisch, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sasha. Greetings to everyone participating in this discussion around the world. I certainly wish we could all be together in person today. I'd like to begin by thanking the governments of Denmark, Kenya, and Lebanon for joining the United States as co-sponsors for this event on the margins of the UN General Assembly. I also thank Australia, Denmark, the Netherlands, and Norway for joining the United States in supporting Strong Cities Network. Each country has been a critical partner in global efforts to counter terrorism. Finally, I want to thank the mayors who have joined us for today's discussion. I'd also like to congratulate everyone involved in the Strong Cities Network on its 5th anniversary. Whenever I travel overseas, I receive unsolicited praise about Strong Cities Network, which is a testament to the hard work of Sasha, Havlicek, Rebecca Skellett, and the rest of the ISD team that they've invested in this network. The last 5 years have brought a lot of change to the world, and the need for a global forum for local governments to discuss their role in countering radicalization and recruitment to terrorism remains as relevant as ever. When the network launched at UNGA in 2015, few people fully grasped the threat posed by 40,000 foreign terrorist fighters from over 100 countries leaving their homes for Syria and Iraq. A little over 6 weeks after the SCN kickoff, Paris experienced a brutal assault by ISIS, which left 130 people dead from coordinated and near simultaneous attacks across the city and the surrounding area. Although less sophisticated, deadly attacks by individuals who found inspiration from ISIS struck cities such as Nice, Berlin, London, Barcelona, and New York. Many of the attackers were previously unknown to law enforcement, but in several instances, warning signs observed by family members, friends, neighbors, and co-workers went unheeded. None of us want to be in a position where we're asking ourselves what more we could have done to prevent such tragedy. While our coalition decimated ISIS on the battlefield in Syria and Iraq, some of our toughest work lies ahead. Tens of thousands of people remain in camps in northeast Syria and Iraq, awaiting repatriation to their home countries. This includes thousands of children who are malnourished, lack adequate protection from COVID-19, and have gone years without formal education. This untenable situation poses a tremendous risk to international peace and security. We continue to urge countries and governments to take responsibility for their own citizens and thank those that already have, including Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kazakhstan, Kosovo, North Macedonia, and Uzbekistan, among others. The United States, for its part, has repatriated more than 25 foreign terrorist fighters and family members from Syria and Iraq, including 15 children, and we remain committed to bringing home more. We do this because it's the right thing to do. It's right from a security perspective, and it is right from a human rights perspective. And it's the right thing to do from a moral and ethical perspective. When foreign terrorist fighters and their accompanying family members return home from Syria and Iraq, they will require an enormous amount of help from their extended family, neighbors, educators, mental health professionals, and social workers to help them become peaceful and productive members of society. We cannot overstate how critical it is that local governments work in close partnership with their national government and community leaders to ensure rehabilitation and reintegration efforts are coordinated and contribute to a comprehensive effort to prevent future terrorist attacks and protect our citizens. We are grateful to the SCN members who are already playing a role in rehabilitation and reintegration efforts, especially those in the Western Balkans. In North Macedonia, for example, the municipality of Kumanovo has partnered with SCN to launch a community action team so that reintegration and long-term prevention efforts at the community level are embedded into local services and that capacity is built among multiple stakeholders. Because of the important role of local governments that they should play in rehabilitation and reintegration, the State Department is supporting the expansion of SCN into Central Asia, a region where a significant number of foreign terrorist fighters came. Last December, we sponsored a regional SCN workshop in Almaty, Kazakhstan, that focused on local government's role in these efforts. Since then, Bishkek and Panjshkent became SCN's first Central Asian members, with more cities expected to join. We cannot assume ISIS will go away quietly. Their followers, in fact, will continue to pose a threat for many years. This is why we must ensure that ideas that led to the creation of ISIS, as well as the personal factors that contributed to an individual's recruitment and radicalization, do not appeal to or resonate with a new generation, especially the children who have undergone years of indoctrination from this hateful and intolerant ideology, including the children that remain in the camps in northeast Syria. Countries must take multi-stakeholder approaches to rehabilitation and reintegration of family members that appropriately respond to their individual psychosocial needs and risks to prevent stigmatization and further radicalization. Over the last 5 years, we have seen racially or ethnically motivated terrorist attacks, also called REMT, with violent white supremacists targeting communities in Pittsburgh, Christchurch, El Paso, Hala, and elsewhere. The United States takes this threat by REMT actors seriously and continues to take action to combat it, including the historic designation earlier this year of the Russian imperial movement and its leaders as specially designated global terrorists. This was the first time the State Department designated a white supremacist group. We plan to also support a series of SCN engagements in Central Europe focused on the REMT threat. Working with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, these trainings will help local government officials identify effective strategies to work with their national governments and community leaders to push back against individuals and groups who violently target Jews, Muslims, members of other religious or racial minority groups, immigrants, LGBTQ individuals, and other perceived enemies. Whatever the ideology, local governments often have a comparative advantage over their national level counterparts when it comes to preventing and countering terrorism because they operate at the community level. This is why the United States supported efforts by SCN to partner with local governments in East and West Africa, the Middle East and North Africa, South and Central Asia, and the Western Balkans to promote bottom-up approaches and in some instances build local prevention networks. Mombasa County in Kenya and the municipality of Shire in North Macedonia, for example, have long been considered hotspots for terrorist radicalization and recruitment. Thanks to efforts by local government officials, community leaders, and SCN, they now serve as models for local government officials in more effectively managing and undermining causes of terrorism. With support from Norway, SCN launched the Young Cities program in Kenya, Lebanon, and Senegal, which propelled youth voices to develop powerful messaging campaigns that reached over 1 million people and youth participatory governance models with over 50 local government leaders. In Lebanon, SCN, with support from Denmark and the Netherlands, helped the municipality of Saida launch a theological workbook that is used by imams and school teachers in religious classes and sermons. SCN also helped Tripoli open Lebanon's first office for youth affairs, which serves as a platform to bridge the gap between youth and the municipality and build a relationship of trust in the local authorities. As others will discuss in more detail, the work SCN did in Tripoli and other Lebanese municipalities has proven to be an invaluable asset for the country as it recovers from the horrific explosion in Beirut's port last month. SCN has also proved to be an indispensable forum for local governments to learn from and share with each other. The Antwerp Police Department, for example, developed a mobile app to increase cultural awareness, which was inspired by an exchange with fellow SCN member San Diego. In Kosovo, the municipality of Gilon developed a referral mechanism inspired by fellow SCN member Arhus. In North Macedonia, several municipalities have developed community action teams inspired by SCN members in Jordan and Lebanon, as well as in the Arhus model showcased at the 2017 SCN Global Summit. With support from the United States, SCN will soon develop resources for local governments to push back against disinformation, including messages associated with COVID-19. With everyone spending more time at home and online, terrorists have been targeting vulnerable individuals with conspiracy theories, misinformation, disinformation, and other propaganda. Local governments are often viewed as the most trusted sources of information in a community, but officials often lack the training and experience to effectively push back against such disinformation. We urge others to join us in providing resources to these critical voices. To conclude, I want to leave you with a simple message. No community should have to address the threat of terrorism in isolation. This is why the United States helped create SCN 5 years ago and why we recently expanded our support. In that time, SCN has engaged over 140 member cities worldwide, but for the network to truly reach its potential and build capacity among local community stakeholders, we need help from other governments, the private sector, and foundations. Together, we can make our communities safer for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harnisch. Forgive me, there's a slight delay with our technology, not quite working. I'm so grateful to you for laying out and highlighting so many vital parts of SCN programming, again, which wouldn't be possible without the support of the State Department. You absolutely rightly point to the efforts that are being made on the repatriation, rehabilitation and reintegration of foreign fighters in many parts of the world, including in SCN cities. And you noted the efforts of Kumanovo in Northern Macedonia. We are very excited to have with us the mayor of Kumanovo, who will speak to some of these efforts later today. You also rightly highlighted the cross-ideological challenges we face in terms of countering terrorism and violent extremism today, at the center of what the SCN is doing to support municipalities around the world. Thank you very much. Now let me turn to Kenya. For the past few years, Kenya has been highly commended on multiple occasions by the international community for its efforts to counter violent extremism. Our legacy of work with Kenya goes right back to the inception of the SCN. We were thrilled to have Mombasa as a founding member. And our work today in Kenya crosses several counties. I'm honored now to introduce Ambassador Dr. Martin Kimani, Director of the National Counter-Terrorism Center and Special Envoy on CVE for Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sasha, and good morning or good afternoon to everybody who is on this meeting. Sorry, I won't show you my face because I'm in a location with very poor internet connectivity, so I've got to try and use all of it on audio. Well, let me first thank the government of the United States, of Denmark, and of Lebanon for participating and co-sponsoring this event, and for the fantastic job that you do. I want to be very forward-looking by just talking a little bit about Kenya's experience, but really trying to get my remarks to end with where I think we should be looking to head if we're going to have more impact in this particular fight. The first thing is the Strong Cities Network is well established in Kenya. And as Sasha said, Governor Hassan Joho of Mombasa has been one of the champions for the Strong Cities Network, which has since grown to have other 6 other counties out of Kenya's 47 counties. And those include Isiolo, Kwale, Nakuru, Mombasa, Mandera, and Lamu. And most of these counties really can be counted as locations that are on the front lines of jihadists, Al-Qaeda, Al-Shabaab recruitment and operations. And so it's extremely important that they succeed. And we have a very particular view of what success looks like. SCN has been supporting these counties to work on youth issues, policy, civil society capacity building programs, and looking to strengthen the capacity of those counties and the local actors to actually be more resilient against the appeal of these groups. Now, I think when it comes to the Kenyan national strategy is that Kenya sees prevention and counterterrorism as part of a continuum. And so it charges the National Counterterrorism Center to engage in coordination in both activities. And we find this as Kenya to be crucial because prevention in the context of ongoing counterterrorism operations means that you really need to do a lot of deconflicting. But at the same time, you need all the actors to have a really strong and clear understanding of their roles. Now, one of the things the Strong Cities Network, of course, tries to do, as Sasha and also Chris was explaining, is to enable cities and local authorities to be part of this fight. In Kenya, cities and local authorities do not have a security mandate. So unlike other countries or many other countries, especially with a federal model, cities in Kenya do not have an independent ability to carry forward security operations. So what is the role of these local authorities in the prevention of terrorism and the prevention of violent extremism? Now, as all of you here, 113 or so people appreciate, is that there's no clear line between the counterterrorism and prevention, because a lot of times, just by engaging in prevention, you end up operating in an environment and with individuals who may be directly involved in terrorist organizations or terrorist operations, or at a minimum, are sympathizers or facilitators. So that line is very difficult to define, and it's constantly moving and carries a lot of risk with it. So what we've done in Kenya is to come to the understanding through our county action plans, which are in all 47 counties, that the civilian and local side of the business focuses on addressing the appeal of these ideologies and these groups and trying to respond to them in a way that raises the level of harmony, the level of respect and appreciation for diversity at the local level. In other words, pushing back the message of these extremist groups and extremist actors, while those of us in the national government with a constitutional mandate for security undertake counterterrorism operations and look to ensure that the prevention aspect is always well coordinated and deconflicted from prevention. So we have appreciated the Strong Cities Network, but it has been a process of really learning how to tread between these two dimensions. One of the things that I would really hasten to say is that Kenya is, I think, doing a great job, but we are not anywhere near victory yet. One, is because a lot of the actors, including in the civil society, including in at the local level, are very attracted to trying to engage at the front end of the business. In other words, preventing people from straight recruitment into these groups. For that reason, they are very close to where the counterterrorism operation is happening. Where we still need a lot of work, and there are actors in the Strong Cities Network really pushing this work, but we need a lot more of it, is in actually defending democracy, defending the constitutionalism, and understanding how to defend those against religious and political extremists. The ideas, I mean, since I got involved in this field years ago, the word used to be, I hear it less now, that we are in an argument, we are in a battle of ideas. That used to be the operative phrase. I don't hear it as much nowadays, and I think partly is that the battle of ideas has become harder and harder to carry out in the context of all the civil and legal rights people have to believe and say what they will. So, but we in the counterterrorism environment depend in Kenya on our civil society taking that fight on and saying to these groups, whether they're saying it privately or over the airwaves, to get these groups to understand that their appeal and their ideas have no place in Kenya in any way whatsoever. And for that, we need a civil society and a strong cities network that is ideologically adept, understands the ideological appeal of these groups, and is able to answer not just with ideological propaganda in a negative sense, but with a genuine passion and appreciation of living in a multi-party secular democracy. We win when we win that fight. At the same time, we have appreciated those actors within the Strong Cities Network who are focused on interfaith harmony and interfaith cooperation work. We, like I think the present US administration, think that fighting for religious freedom and freedom of association on the basis of religion is a crucial fight in countering violent extremism around the world. And so we have, as the National Counterterrorism Center and other actors at the national level, really encouraged and tried to give as much collaboration, cooperation, and protection, with some notable lapses once or twice, to actors who are trying to actually push for more religious freedom and religious respect across religions. That is where basically conceptually we are. In terms of implementation, the primary vehicle for implementation is the County Action Plan in Kenya, that we've been very happy that ISD and the Strong Cities Network people in Kenya have embraced the county action plans and seen them as a vehicle to deliver programming to the grassroots. These county action plans are localized plans that bring together civil society, government, security agencies, and local leaders to diagnose the issues and the threats within their community, and then to fashion the priorities that they need to embrace so as to solve those problems, coming from a place of strength. So they have to determine where their strengths, where their weaknesses, etc. We've established them throughout the country, and I am proud to say that I think this is perhaps one of the most comprehensive local responses to violent extremism anywhere in our region, and possibly much further afield. Going forward, I hope the Strong Cities Network will do even more within the county action plans to implement them and to drive them forward, understanding that they're flexible, they're changeable. These priorities are for the local actors to sit and look at them again and again and say, well, 6 months ago, we thought these were our top 5 priorities, but we must reorder them because there's an emerging issue that we are seeing. A good example is counties such as Nyeri County that have now tried to combine their COVID awareness programming with countering violent extremism programming at the same time, understanding that our extremists are trying to actually use COVID to advance their agenda. We also, on the national level, have expanded disengagement and reintegration. And we've done this very much under the rubric of our counterterrorism work. So far, we have just under 1,000 cases that we are handling constantly, with more increasing all the time. The reason this is relevant to the Strong Cities Network is that we occasionally, when appropriate, pick on a particular civil society group that has the expertise and the credibility and engage them in part of our disengagement work. Of course, this is highly securitized work that requires very clear protocols, but we see an increasing role for these civil society actors when we work with them, ensure that they're well trained, ensure that they're well protected, that they have a good understanding of how to operate with the state and our security agencies. And that is a promising future growth area for the Strong Cities Network. And by that, what I mean is for there to be an increasing capability that we build alongside civil actors and other actors, not for them to take a front seat and start driving this engagement. That is not going to be allowed in Kenya. It will continue to be under the framework of the security agencies. But we believe that their skills in terms of counseling, psychological skills, employment issues, and also ideological counter messaging within a disengagement context that we need a lot more help with. I could go on and on, but I want to just hope that I've given you a flavor and maybe a bit of a few challenges that allow you to engage in a more useful way with Kenya. I want to finish by really, again, pledging the government of Kenya's support to the Strong Cities Network. And I say that as a representative of the national government, knowing that the counties and the 6 counties and the other counties and their leadership are also looking forward to engaging in this very promising program. I want to thank Sasha and her team for the tremendous work they do. They're not only technically able, but I've noticed that Sasha is driven by a passion for this work. And I think passion for countering violent extremism is the real force multiplier. You can talk a lot about other issues that are needed, resources, money, all manner of needs that we have. But passion is what is going to characterize those who will win this fight, because our enemies actually display passion all the time. That is their number one driver, not money. And so, Sasha, thank you for your leadership. And I look forward to working with all of you, and in particular, the governments that are co-sponsoring this event, the United States, Denmark, and Lebanon. Thank you very much.
Ambassador Kimani, thank you so much, Martin, for this wonderful intervention, for laying out what's happening, but also the challenges ahead. I couldn't agree with you more that beyond the sharp tip of the challenge of stopping people being recruited into terrorist organizations, we must be looking at the longer tail of ideological recruitment, and indeed not just in the negative, but in the positive. How do we fight the fight of secular democracy and constitutionalism? This is absolutely critical to these challenges that we're facing. Thank you. I turn now to Denmark, which has been a pioneer in exploring ways in which city practices in one country can be adapted, translated to other environments. And certainly that was the origin of our partnership, our SCN partnership with Denmark in Lebanon and Jordan, where we worked with the Danish Foreign Ministry to pilot that translation of practices from Denmark to these environments. I want to say a special thank you to Adam Ravnkilde, who with whom we worked on the ground for many years, and who is now counter-terrorism coordinator in Denmark for this partnership. And I am pleased that Ambassador Christina Lassen, political director at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who unfortunately had other commitments today, will be addressing us through this pre-recorded statement.
Good morning, colleagues in North America, good evening in Southeast Asia and Australia, and hello to everyone in between. At a time when we are still assessing the impact of the COVID-19 global pandemic on the threats posed by violent extremism, I'd like to thank the Strong Cities Network for facilitating today's important discussion. We live in a time of multiple crises: security, health, political, and regardless of political leadership at the national level, communities and cities will always remain central. A global network of cities coming together to prevent radicalization in all its forms and manifestations have never been more relevant. For several years, I've been fortunate enough to call Beirut my home. Let me use this occasion to send a heartfelt message of solidarity and support to all of those whose lives were shattered by the horrific explosion on the 4th of August, and I wish you all the best in the reconstruction of that beautiful city. From my time as European Union Ambassador to Lebanon, I experienced a very active engagement by community prevention networks established by the Lebanese Strong Cities under a partnership between Denmark and Lebanon, spearheaded by the National PVE Coordinator, my friend Rubina Zeinab. Danish experts have visited Lebanon and hosted their Lebanese counterparts in Denmark. It's evident that a one-size-fits-all approach will never work in an area where success is so dependent on an understanding of local drivers of radicalization and the means and resources available to mitigate them. Nevertheless, fruitful peer-to-peer discussions have led to the development of a Lebanese prevention model, which I'm sure Rubina will talk about later. At the same time, our Danish municipality colleagues returned from Lebanon with new insights on how civil society and other non-governmental actors can be mobilized as an integral part of local prevention work. The work done in Saida municipality under the patronage of Mayor Saudi is an important source of inspiration. I would like to congratulate also Kenya on the election as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council. We are very proud of our close bilateral partnership with Kenya on the peace and security agenda. This includes a strategic partnership between the Kenyan National Counter-Terrorism Center under Ambassador Kimani's visionary leadership and the Danish Security and Intelligence Service. Our engagement in the Global Community Engagement and Resilience Fund and the Strong Cities Network that we're celebrating today stand as other strong testimonies to our government's shared commitment to promoting locally anchored early measures to prevent radicalization as the most effective way of reducing the threat from global terrorism. We encourage Kenya to build on its continental leadership and continue to advance this agenda from its seat in the Security Council. Turning finally to our colleagues at the State Department in Washington, I would like to commend the CT Bureau for its continued steadfast support to the Strong Cities Network and other civilian-led international CVE initiatives. Denmark stands with the United States in our joint multifaceted efforts to prevent and counter global terrorism. And let me end by thanking our friends and partners from the United States, Kenya, and Lebanon for joining us here today. But most importantly, I would like to express my gratitude to the members of the Strong Cities Network, the mayors, community prevention networks, municipality staff, teachers, faith leaders, youth, civil society, and all the others who are working tirelessly to make the cities even stronger. You are by far the most important partners in our collective efforts to prevent violent extremism and promote peaceful dialogue and coexistence. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In addition to this partnership that we've been happy enough to enjoy with the Danish Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we've had an extraordinary relationship and partnership between the SCN and the National Government of Lebanon, which recognized early on the need for close national-local cooperation. I have the great pleasure to introduce the absolutely wonderful Rubina Abu Zeinab. Mr. Kimani, Ambassador Kimani, talked about the need for passion in addressing these challenges. That is embodied, I think, in every way by Rubina Abu Zeinab's involvement and pursuit of countering violent extremism in Lebanon. She is the national coordinator for preventing violent extremism in Lebanon. May I just quickly say how heartbroken I think all of us have been to see Lebanon subjected to this terrible incident lately. With the support of the Norwegian government, our small team in Lebanon were able to play a very small part in supporting those most acutely affected. But all our hearts go out to you, and we are so grateful to the tireless work that you do and your team does on the ground. May I hand the floor over to you, Rubina.
Thank you, Sasha, so much. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, dear Ambassador Christina Lassen, a dear friend to me and to Lebanon, to whom we contribute and always appreciate her support to the PVE program. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Denmark, the Kenyan National Counter-Terrorism Center, and the US Department of State to their partnership in organizing this landmark and timely event on the margins of the UN General Assembly. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate our strategic partner, the Strong Cities Network, on their 5th anniversary. We are proud of the special relationship between the PVE unit in Lebanon and the Strong Cities Network, which contributed and continued to move forward through the last 4 years and was inspired at first by the Danish approach to early prevention, municipality-led community prevention networks. I'm confident that our partnership will continue to produce high value to the Lebanese people by building the capacity of local communities and strengthening their resilience in the face of any conducive environment for violent extremism. It is through the Strong Cities Network that we had our first interaction with the Danish model. In early prevention, we had the chance to interact with the model's key actors nationally and locally, and it inspired us a lot, especially in the areas like organizational coordination between security and non-security institutions, the role of civil society vis-a-vis governmental entities, and the resilience building mechanism which tackles individual and communities' elements of vulnerability by deploying various tools in the policies and programmatic toolbox. For the first moment, we understood that context is king, and every societal reality contains different elements of vulnerability, and that building the resilience requires a context-specific intervention. However, international knowledge sharing is a prerequisite for success and efficiency. After all, we all know that there is no value for reinventing the wheel. Therefore, the Lebanese Coordination Unit has shared with its interministerial working group a detailed report of its visit and interaction with the Danish model, as well as its partnership with the Strong Cities Network, in order to ensure that our partnership is based on a whole government engagement. It is needless to say that the gap between the Lebanese and Danish contexts could be clearly seen in the naked eye. However, a microscopic analysis to the institutional dynamics of both countries, which control the smoothness or the full participation of multi-agency approach, could be a very great evidence on the fact that the devil is in the details. We both care a lot about keeping participatory approach in all our interventions. That's why in both countries, a lot of political capital is spent on bringing different actors to the table and capturing the needs and concerns of all stakeholders. For example, the Lebanese National Action Plan setting process has engaged 850 participants representing 300 organizations from civil society, government entities, academia, private sector, and international organizations. This process, which was initially supported by the Danish government, among other donors like the European Union, the Swiss government, the United Nations Development Fund, the British Council, and the government of the Netherlands, has given the PVE a wide national sense of ownership and a buy-in which maintained its continuity despite the great challenges we are facing today. In Lebanon, violent extremism has targeted 397 cities and villages since 1970. Local communities are by all means the key actors in prevention agenda. They are also the natural first respondents in the absence of an effective state structure, which can provide the basic means of welfare for its citizens and residents. That is why in the National PVE Strategy and the Action Plan, we insist on the fact that in the Lebanese context, any PVE or CVE intervention, regardless of its level of sophistication, cannot produce a long-term prevention effect if happening in isolation from an effective state-building process. A strong, trustworthy, efficient, and inclusive state is a prerequisite for any successful PVE agenda. And this is simply one of the key reasons why the local prevention model of the Strong Cities Network is something that I personally follow on a daily basis, since we believe that it is in local communities that radicalization takes place, and in local communities it could be prevented. The current prevention network have proven impact during Lebanon's various crises, which resulted from the pandemic, security challenges, economic meltdown, or political collapse. They have worked very hard in maintaining social cohesion and involving youth and civil society in facing the challenges of their local communities. Therefore, we are currently working with our partners at the Strong Cities Network in expanding our work to cover most, if not all, governorate. We are launching new prevention networks in various regions with the aim that we tackled violent extremist problems in different cities from different confessional, economic, geographical, and social backgrounds. The aggregation of these efforts is the milestone for a collective PVE agenda, which takes local community at its heart. In that sense, the National Action Plan requires us to establish, train, and operationalize prevention networks in more than 10 cities before 2023. We also plan to develop a local vulnerability assessment framework to assess local community vulnerabilities to violent extremism around the country, and to produce evidence and guidelines for local level intervention. We also aim to enhance cross-institutional coordination by issuing national memorandum, which include a consensus-based key standards for the application of a multi-agency approach in Lebanon. To conclude, Lebanon has worked extensively for the last 3 years on installing the necessary human and institutional infrastructure for building a national consensus around PVE. The partnership between Lebanon Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Denmark and the Strong Cities Network supported the creation of a locally owned model for coordinating a local development driven efforts to preventing violent extremism, which is the Lebanese model. A model built on connecting national policies and national policy formation and local level interventions that mutually reinforce the understanding of local needs and national-wide priorities. In Lebanon, we are proud of our partnership with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Denmark and the Strong Cities Network. We look forward to enhance this partnership in a moment when Lebanon is in great need for the inspiration and support of its friends. I would like to thank the organizers for their efforts, our partners from Denmark and the US for the kind invitation, and thank you to all for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Rubina, thank you so much for this intervention and for laying out some of the amazing programming that's happening in Lebanon. We are so grateful for the partnership. I now have the great pleasure of introducing our friend and partner, Mayor Andy Berke of Chattanooga. Mayor Berke served as state senator for Tennessee's 10th district from 2007 to 2012 before becoming the 65th mayor of Chattanooga in 2013. He was named Municipal Leader of the Year in 2015 for his innovative approach to tackling a range of problems, but specifically for his leadership during the domestic terror attack that took place in 2015 in July, that took the lives of 4 Marines and a naval officer. We've had the honor and pleasure of working with Mayor Berke to establish the Council Against Hate, designed to promote policies and strategies for safer, more resilient and welcoming communities, and inspired by the SCN local prevention network model that you've just heard about, also from Rubina. So we are extremely grateful to you, Mayor Berke. You've been an amazing advocate for the SCN, and we look very much forward to hearing your address today.
Thanks so much, Sasha, and appreciate you including me. Good day to everyone. Let me begin by thanking the Institute for Strategic Dialogue and the Strong Cities Network. For the last 5 years, they've worked toward one critical goal: to make our world safer by giving city leaders the tools they need to counter violent extremism. Berke and Sasha and all of their colleagues are dedicated and knowledgeable and caring, and I've benefited greatly from my association with them. Just as importantly, though, I need to thank all of the city leaders who are connected to the network. As I've traveled, I've learned so much from you. When delegations have journeyed to my city, we have tried to share our lessons, but every time we learn more from our neighbors. Chattanooga is a better place because we are an active participant in the Strong Cities Network. And let me tell you how we got here. On July 16, 2015, my life and the life of all Chattanoogans changed forever. A gunman acting alone attacked a military recruiting site and a nearby naval operations support center. Our local police department responded and neutralized the attacker as swiftly as they could, but not before 5 lives had been taken. Sergeant Carson Holmquist, Gunnery Sergeant Thomas Sullivan, Staff Sergeant David Wyatt, Lance Corporal Skip Wells, Petty Officer 2nd Class Randall Smith. In Chattanooga, we remember them as the Fallen Five. This attack occurred 2 years into my first term as mayor. There are a lot of things nobody tells you about this job, and how to lead your city forward in the aftermath of a domestic terrorism attack is one of them. And as I thought about how we would respond, I decided that everything we did in the aftermath of the attack would achieve these goals. First, we need to put the families of the victims at the center of all our decisions. The national media descended on our city quickly, and under the glare of cable news and worldwide coverage, it was important to me that the media not extend their suffering. Our city showed tremendous caution and discretion in how their stories got told. Second, and very much connected, I made a vow that nothing in our city's response would radicalize one more person. Terrorism is about provocation, provoking fear, provoking outrage, provoking hate. It's about driving divisions and creating logic traps that allow you to see other people as less than human. Federal investigations discovered that the shooter had recently returned from a trip to the Middle East shortly before the attack. There, he had been radicalized by those determined to continue the cycle of violence. In the days and weeks immediately after the attack, if we were to demonize Islam, the religion of the attacker, we would be disgracing the lives of the American servicemen that we lost that day. We would have been giving their killer and the forces that equipped him to kill exactly what they wanted. I would not be another link in the chain of hatred. If I had done so, I would not have been the enemy of the July 16 attacker. I would have been his accomplice. The path we chose is harder, but I believe then and I believe now that it has made us more resilient. The path we chose is longer, but I believe it has taken us to where we really want to go. I cannot speak highly enough of our local Muslim community during this period. At a time when they had every right to be afraid and turn inward, they honored the true tenets of their faith by engaging with us at every turn. Every interfaith service, every volunteer opportunity, every memorial, even on the last night of Ramadan, they were there, praying with us, standing with us, offering their help. They grieved with us, for us, and alongside us, which takes immense courage. I'm proud to call many of these individuals friends, and Chattanooga is proud to call them citizens. As I focused my attention on Chattanoogans, the larger world took notice. The New York Times wrote a story praising our commitment to nonviolence in the aftermath of the attack. Eventually, I became involved in the Strong Cities Network. As the network opened up learning opportunities for me, I realized the common threads that our experience shares with so many around the world. This year marked the 5th anniversary of the attack, and as a city, we are reflecting deeply on what has changed in Chattanooga and in America and what is not. In the 5 years since the July 16th attacks, violent incidents driven by hate and discrimination sometimes seem to have a stranglehold on American life. The Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, the shooting at a black church in Charleston, the Tree of Life massacre in Pittsburgh, the white supremacist riots in Charlottesville, the killings at the Poway Synagogue, the murders at a Walmart store in El Paso. I reach out to the mayors of these cities to express my condolences and offer my assistance. It is a fraternity of grief that adds new members all too frequently. And to each of them, I say the same thing. Understand what an act of terror really wants. Not the murder of American bodies, but the murder of an American ideal. Pluralistic and peaceful, diverse, but united. Ask them to remember it is not the attack that defines your community, it is how you respond to the attack, how you grow from the experience, how you choose to heal that defines you, and hate can never heal. In 2018, using the knowledge I had gained from the Strong Cities Network, I launched the Mayor's Council Against Hate in Chattanooga, a community advisory group with a membership now numbering in the hundreds, who work to combat hate in the most effective way possible by creating and sustaining a civic culture which does not allow it to take root in the first place. Our Council Against Hate works with local companies on best practices around safe and inclusive workplaces. It works with teachers to develop trainings around how to teach the lessons of the Holocaust and other human rights atrocities. It works with local faith leaders across all religions to celebrate our common points of both divinity and humanity in the way we worship. It works with members of the local media to make sure issues of bias, hate, and violent extremism are reported accurately, promptly, and responsibly. And it works with state and federal local law enforcement to better understand where and how bias-motivated incidents occur, who they target, and what we can do to help. Next week, the Council Against Hate will launch their first public, no-cost anti-racism training for its members, furthering the kind of intentional racial reconciliation work that is at the forefront of every American mayor's mind right now. There is so much more we need to do. Sometimes feels like every gesture is only a beginning. Just a few weeks ago, portions of our downtown were defaced with swastika graffiti. According to the Anti-Defamation League, as of 2018, 1 out of every 5 white supremacist events in the country took place in my home state of Tennessee. These are sad but salient reminders of how necessary our work still is. Hate is everywhere, but so too are opportunities for peace, reconciliation, and hope. This is 2020, an election year in my country. We have more decisions to make about the paths we will choose as Americans and the destinations we seek. Leadership matters, and that's why I am so grateful for the partnership of the Strong Cities Network and the lessons that we all continue to learn and share. This is the work to which I am committed, and I thank each of you for taking this path with me. Thank you very much, Sasha.
Not unmuted yet. Thank you so very much, Mayor Berke. We are so grateful to you, and your work serves as an inspiration. The SCN is partly about sharing the amazing leadership that we see in so many parts of the world. And your work has been an inspiration and served as a model elsewhere. I want to just say we couldn't do this work without the partnerships that we have. We've heard here from Ambassador Kimani. The NCTC in Kenya is absolutely central to our ability to do this work, and the partnership is deeply appreciated, and his leadership is deeply appreciated. The same way, of course, Rubina, your leadership in Lebanon is absolutely critical to our ability to support efforts on the ground. And we are so grateful to you for your leadership. Mayor Berke, your leadership is absolutely exemplary, and we are so grateful to you for it and for sharing it across the network. These are the partnerships that make the SCN work. And I just want to say thank you to those speakers that have come up until now on this amazing 5th year anniversary gathering. As, of course, I want to say thank you to the governments that have supported the work that we do around the world, without whom this work could not be done. And so we are eternally grateful for the partnerships that have been represented through these keynotes. And thank you. Now it's time to get to the next part of this program. I have the great pleasure of introducing my wonderful colleague, Rebecca Skellett. Becky needs really no introduction in this forum. You all know her well. She's well known to this group. Becky came on board at the Institute soon after we launched the SCN, bringing a wealth of experience and expertise to the table from her previous work as a local CVE practitioner here in the UK. She is a force of nature, and she has worked tirelessly with the rest of the team here, with Dan Hooten and our amazing sort of dedicated international team to forge ahead in building out what we now have, and is going to tell us more about what we have in store with the SCN going forward, because we have great challenges ahead, as we've heard from a number of our speakers to date. She is going to be presiding now over a wonderful panel of mayors, partners, again, on the ground in a number of different geographies around the world that we work in. So thank you so much to you, Becky, to the team. I'd like to really name everybody in the team. Maybe we can do that at the end of this call, but I know that we are pressed for time right now. But over to you, Becky.
Sasha, thank you. And I had to dab my eyes a little bit after Mayor Berke's intervention, which moves myself and the team so much to hear just what an impact our work has. And I thank him deeply for sharing his story. As Sasha mentioned, I'm delighted to move on to chair a distinguished panel today, which will explore some of the roles that many of our inspiring mayors take in this complex agenda. And we've asked them to outline what they see as some of their key emerging challenges for their cities and tell us a bit how they're responding. Now, whilst they represent a very small sample of the great work of 140 local governments, they are too a force of nature. And we'll hear now from Mayor Al-Saudi of Saida in Lebanon, followed by Mayor Beng Climaco of Zamboanga in the Philippines, and lastly, Mayor Dimitrievski of Kumanovo in North Macedonia. And my pronunciation can only ever get better, so I thank you for your patience. We'll hear each speaker in turn, and then we'll open the floor to questions, and I encourage everybody to use the Q&A that we have as part of the Zoom package. So firstly, it's with a great pleasure to hand over the floor to Mayor Mohamad Al-Saudi of Saida, who's going to speak a little bit about some of our work in establishing a local prevention network, which Rubina mentioned. And it's a delight to have him with us as he takes a decade of his mayoral leadership to us all here today. Mayor, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. And I would say good morning to some and good evening to others. Do you hear me?
Very well.
Do you hear me?
Loud and
Hello? Why is that? Hello? Do you hear me?
We can hear you well, Mayor Al-Saudi.
Okay. Again, good morning and good evening for some. I first would like to congratulate the 5 years Strong Cities. And I would have to thank Mr. Adam from Denmark and Ms. Khadija also from Denmark and Mirna from Saida. They have done really a very good work. You know, Saida is a place which have a lot of different nationalities and different religions, and this is why the Strong Cities network was very important for Saida to join. You know, we have the Ain al-Hilwa camp, which occupies 100,000 Palestinians, which constitute 1/3 of the population of Saida. We have Syrians, refugees. We have a lot of other nationalities as well. So, and there is no place similar to Saida that very well needed this help from this organization. You know, the stakeholders, the NGOs, the schools, the scouts, clergymen, and youth councils were all involved in this very lengthy and very useful exercise. You know, these people have lived together for 3 years and get very, very good results. You know, as a municipality, we are not a police. You know, we only do certain. Of course, we have the municipality police, but it is not. You know, they don't have authority like the police or the national police or the army. So this is why it is very important for us to have, you know, self-restraint from the people. I would have to say that the results that came from this exercise was very, very useful. You know, people have extremism in their nature because they are of different backgrounds. I'm still there? Hello?
We can hear you very well. Thank you, Meg.
Okay.
You can continue.
Okay. Again, you know, the exercise I have seen on weekly basis, you know, meetings with schools, students, and also from the you know, the population, normal population. I would say that the municipality of Saida is one of the prime municipalities in Lebanon, which joined the International Strong Cities Network. As it believes in the ability of its local society to protect its youth and guide them to adopt the safe track which participates in the city development and expansion. So this is the main target for such an exercise, which resulted in a very good result. Indeed, we in Saida reject all kinds of violent radicalism, whether political or religious, which destroys the common living, stops the development, and violates the security and safety. We support the moderate thought and accepting serves to reach an immune and safe community and a society that embodies all its citizens. Now, the exercise that lasted for the last 3 years, and I can see the good results and the prime benefits of it in the municipality and around us. I don't have to forget to also thank the Dutch government for continuing this exercise in the coming future. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and I have to also thank the Council of Hello? You still hear me, right? Okay. Okay. Anyhow, I have again to thank you for giving me this opportunity to be with you this evening, and hope to see you again in Saida, inshallah. Thank you.
Inshallah. Mayor, thank you so much. You've really highlighted, I think, the critical role you've played in bringing youth to the table in your city. And I know there is a lot more that we could discuss about the great work that you and the Prevention Network have been doing. To move slightly further to a later part of the world, I'm delighted to welcome our next speaker. Mayor Maria Beng Climaco has been Mayor of Zamboanga in the Philippines for the past 7 years. And she's been another extraordinary leader for us in our work, and especially now as we begin to expand our work into Southeast Asia. I'm very much looking forward to hearing your remarks. Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Becky. And celebrating 5 years of SEN, we would like to congratulate you all, and ISD as well. Pasa Dios, y abrazo de Nuestra Señora la Virgen del Pilar a todos. From Zamboanga City, Philippines. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Zamboanga City, Philippines is a highly urbanized city in western Mindanao, surrounded by the provinces of Basilan, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, that much of these are conflicted and composed of Christians, Muslims, and Lumas and indigenous peoples. Our recent experience of terror occurred 7 years ago after about 69 days in office as a freshly minted mayor in 2013, the Zamboanga siege, where 500 rebels attacked our city. The Zamboanga siege opened our eyes to vulnerabilities such as violent extremism, which divide and pit our people against each other. Up to this day, Zamboanga City remains vulnerable. Very recently, in the province of Foley, an attack of the Abu Sayyaf with suicide female bombers imported from other countries and those ready to deploy their bombs in the region. Zamboanga-Sibugay clash of the 7th year commemoration of our Zamboanga siege, and the continued threats of the armed Abu Sayyaf terrorists. In fact, there is an Indonesian couple that's attempting to bomb our areas and kidnapping in the region, and supposedly 6 jihadist widow bombers. Security, health, and education have been our priority, and we added human security pillar in the National Resilience Council. The Philippine flag will be the only flag raised in the city as rebels attempted to hoist their own, but government forces defended our sovereignty. Today, the challenge facing propaganda and radicalization fueled by social media. In fact, my caricature and tarpaulin was burned in Marawi in 2016. To counter this, inclusive governance by cultural sensitivity and interfaith and intercommunity dialogue and communication is key. We provide equitable services for people in the government that cares. In this pandemic, our cities, especially our medical staff, assisted neighboring residents and affected provinces. Transparent governance with visible medical response and assistance is necessary. As mayors, we have a very big role in countering violent extremism. We should look at anti-radicalization in their respective cities and encourage active participation of religious leaders and institutions in dialogue for peace, understanding, and security. We need to come up with a multi-sectoral collaboration for social inclusion, monitor messaging, especially in social media, provide counter-narratives. Because she cares, that means security, health, and education, and access for all, especially for vulnerable communities like the women, the youth, and the internally displaced people. The examples of our initiatives was even during the Ramadan, despite of the COVID pandemic, both the military and the Muslim community gathered together and Christian community to share food packages. We have the Zamboanga City Interfaith Council, our human security pillar, a response on violent extremism advocacies through open house visits, campus tours, the Madaris, and Turil. We could have continued assistance to neighboring local government units, Our Salam volunteers attended a 3-day facilitators course on countering violent extremism and countering terrorism last March under the U.S. Department of Justice Criminal Division, ICTAP, led by Chief Operations James Lade. Our USAID MyDev program of civic engagement of 4,000 young people that are provided skills training and opportunities and life skills for survival in the 20th century. USAID's Opportunity 2.0 youth grants program that will support local-led innovations. Our Gender and Development program, supporting local inclusive economy for farmers and fisher folk, and supporting local COVID protocols. Particularly, we have the Muslim burial practices with a trained imam and NGOs supporting this. And then we have the protocols of COVID for places of worship, whether it's a temple, mosques, and the churches. We also need to work on reducing inequality, especially in conflict-affected provinces and other regions where people need to feel government's actions and cultural sensitivity is very essential. Terrorism can happen anytime and anywhere, even in the midst of the pandemic. COVID-19 isolation have added to the risk of violent extremism. Zamboanga City is in a unique position, balancing act between COVID-19 and security response, healing the sick, protecting our people from man-made and natural disasters. We would like to reiterate that communication is key, the counter-narrative, present transparency and accountability and credibility of government and leaders. We need to strengthen our community first, focus on relationships on the ground. Extremism has no place in our cities. Its violent effects kill people and destroy lives. 7 years since the attack in our city, 788 internally displaced families await permanent homes. We need to sustain security efforts and balance medical safety. My directive to the police and the military is deny terrorists the opportunity to conduct terror in Zamboanga City. Muchísimas gracias, SCN and ISD, vaya con Dios a todos.
Mayor Beng, Climaco, thank you so much. You really always underscore to me the power of requiring community resilience to be at the fore of any response. And I know you won an award in 2017 for developing the resilience of Zamboanga, making it the 4th most resilient municipality and city in the country. And I think we can see why based on that extraordinary presentation. Thank you so much for your time today. And last but not least, we turn and introduce Mayor Maksim Dimitrievski. Mayor Maksim, we have worked with you for the last 2 years, and I know Simeon on the Strong Cities team in particularly has taken such a huge respect for your leadership across Kumanovo. As already mentioned today, we've been working hand in hand with the city to establish a multi-agency community action team, which I hope will learn more on that role and on your leadership in your panel now. Please, over to you, Mayor Maksim.
Thank you very much for nice words about me, and my regards and hello to everybody, to all of the participants on this panel. It's a great honor for me to be a part on the panel. And first of all, I would like to thank you to the Strong Cities Network and everything that you're doing for us to support us as local governments and national governments in to work on a field with prevention of, and suspension of the violent extremism, and to on the same way to fight against terrorism. And I think that we can be more successful if we connect more stronger between each other. So as a local community, for us, it's very important to prevent and suspend the violent extremism. And we already create a strategic plan to deal with community and according the state legislation. In March 2018, the government of Macedonia adopted the first national strategy for prevention of violent extremism, and that was done by a national. That national strategy was developed by the National Committee for the Prevention of Violent Extremism and the fight against terrorism, which is a government advisor and coordination body composed from the side of 22 ministers and institutions on the government level. We become a part of the Strong Cities Network in 2017. That means some of the local authorities make the connections with you and international connections, and we share our experience, and we signed the agreement with you in 2017 and become a part of the Strong Cities Network, which is very useful for us. In 2019, the local council for prevention for the community action team as a thematic problem, which as a thematic group which working and on the several stakeholders, and that group is led by the municipality to prevent the polarization in a community and to prevent the violent extremism. The Kumanovo is the multi-ethnic society. We have representatives from the 12 different ethnicities in the city. And I will not go through the history of Macedonia, North Macedonia, region, Western Balkans, because we have a so huge and so experienced history from the side of the wars. From the ancient time until today, we have a lot of conflicts in the region, but we have a very good cooperation on a local level with a couple of communities which are mixed also, and we're sharing that experience between each other. So we start with the local action plan, which is very important for the community, and to suspend violent extremism. On the beginning, we start with the round tables, with the different topics. We involve on that different round tables the participants from everywhere, from different cities on the beginning, to educate them how to deal with the prevention, and after that to educate them and to make them available to teach the other people in the community, exactly the institutions, especially schools, middle schools, high schools, and professors and teachers how to deal with this problem. We do a lot of education workshops with video presentation and practical examples. And I can say, as a mayor of the municipality, they used to be very useful because now we have a very strong leaders in a community which are adapted on the situation and which are available to work on prevention and suspension of the violent extremism. But at the moment we are in a COVID crisis, and maybe for the moment we expect that the COVID crisis will stop violent extremism and the terrorism acts, but that's not true. We have a lot of frustrations in a community because of the COVID crisis and different medical regulations for protection. And 4 weeks ago in my city, the police, the government police arrested 3 persons which prepared terrorist acts, and they are prosecuted at the moment. So that means they are here on the ground, and we need to do more, especially like a local government with more powerful cooperation with the central government. Because, for example, the last case that's happened in our city, as a mayor, I didn't know nothing about that plans of the police and what they will do, what kind of action will happen in the city. But from another side, these acts that we're doing, you cannot feel them at the moment when you're acting as prevention steps. You will feel them a couple of years later. So because of that, we involved in all of these processes that we acting, different sports clubs, NGOs. We have a very close cooperation with OEP's mission in Republic of North Macedonia. Also with a lot of NGOs and different type of organizations and civil societies. So just to finish to the end, in 2015, in May, in Kumanovo was, I'm saying that there, during that time in Kumanovo was happened as 2 days war. So in Kumanovo was a terrorist attack, which in that attack, 8 police officers died and more than 38 officers was hurt. So that was something like paramilitary action in the city, and that case turned on the lamp in our city and our country also, that we are not just a part in a world where these radical and terrorist groups using the territory like a logistic, but they are available and they can acting on the ground here. So because of that, maybe government and the local governments also involve themselves more powerful in all of this processing to prevent and the violent extremism. Also, I would like to thank you to the US Embassy for all of the support for all of our projects until now, and I hope in the future also to US Department of State and to International Republican Institute, because we have very close connection and cooperation between each other on this field. Also, the Strong Cities Network is something that is built by many different cities and based on a different experience, and we will try to educate between each other. I wish you all the best to you, and of course, if you have some questions for me, please feel free to ask me. Thank you very much.
Mayor, thank you so much. It's quite striking, really, to think back on all 3 of the mayors who've spoken so far, in addition to Mayor Berke, and to recognise the significant leadership you've all gone through in times of crisis. And I think, you know, that is not the reason why we've selected you all to make your addresses today, but it really strikes me as a really unique part of what makes all of your cities part of the Strong Cities Network, and we're delighted that you've been so humble and honest with your expressions today. I should say that we are running over time, and apologies, and our aspirations for running this event virtually and involving as many speakers as possible was too great, so I hope many of you can stick around for the remaining part of the agenda. But I would like to invite all of the mayors to join us just with one closing question. And if there's any questions that are coming through from the audience that are addressed to the whole panel, it would be great if they can come through now. But I'll start us off and ask for any mayor to make a comment. If there is one single bit of external support that we could help you access, be that from national government or from local government or a neighbouring city, what would that be? And Mayor Berke, by virtue of you kicking off our mayoral speeches today, I might pick on you first. There we go. What one bit of support can we help you get?
Well, that's a tough question because the problems are so big and we feel like there's so many things to do. I really feel like the best support that we get from Strong Cities Network is the relationships that we have with other cities. And we've been fortunate to have a number of delegations come to Chattanooga. I've been able to go to some other cities, and that peer-to-peer work that we do, because every place is different, and I'm not looking to duplicate exactly what is going on in another city. I don't think that's the right way to look at this, but what are the principles that I can take from what they're doing and then figure out how they apply in my local municipality. And so I think that really the best support that we get from Strong Cities Network is the connections to other people, and the data is fantastic, and the learnings are terrific, but nothing beats really hearing from other people what's going on in their places and how they faced their challenges and responded.
Thank you, Mayor Berke. I couldn't agree more, and I know we had a question directed on the role of city exchanges in terms of Zamboanga's excellent expertise in youth. Mayor Al-Saudi, can I pass the floor to you? What one thing would be useful that we could help Saida with going forward?
For me, the Lebanon has continuous, exercises, and whenever we had a problem, we solved the problem, we got another one. And you know what happened in Beirut and the COVID-19. So I would say that because of the structure of the population, we have to continue the exercise that we started with the Strong Cities for the last 3 years. And we are continuing now on the Strong Cities with the Dutch. Government. So I would say, whatever you have done it very well, and we ask you to continue the exercise as we exercised it before.
Thank you so much. The show will go on, and we are thrilled that the Dutch government have taken on the continued support to Saida and other municipalities across Lebanon and Jordan. And Mayor Beng, Climaco, what would be useful for you? There is so many challenges taking place. I'd love to hear your views.
Well, Becky, I always believe that it's really the young people and the women that really have to take the place in countering violent extremism. I'm very saddened that suspected widow bombers are coming over to my city to attack us. That is why it's very important, and if I can ask for an SOS for SCN to come up with webinar schedules for young people and women, because we really have to address the grief, the anger, the pain, and radicalization. So if we can get together in this, talk about how families can be better resilient in this pandemic, it would help, because I have not really accomplished the international conference that I had to because of the COVID-19. So I think we're open to possibilities of hosting through SEN or ISD, coming up together, hearts and minds against hate.
Thank you so much. And I think I would love to see us put on a virtual series of webinars that would speak to families and youth and their important role on this agenda. And I'm glad that we have our 2 new consultants who've joined the team based in Indonesia and Malaysia, who I hope have picked up on this recommendation and can help us take it forward. Maksim, we have a question directed to you actually from in the Q&A, so I might pivot and ask you this specific question. What advice and tips would you give to future members of the Strong Cities Network?
My advice is to be very open with the community, to discuss very open about this issue with all of the representatives in the community, to combine them together and to keep them together, especially young people. And after that, to try to involve them in a process. Depends from the which side or which positions they're coming from. If are they returners from somewhere, usually here in North Macedonia, we have returners from Syria or Iraq. Mm-hmm. You have to adapt them and to work on the process of the reconciliation. But in the same time, you have to act on the prevention field and prevention plans. But the most important thing for all of the small countries is that we are doing our job through these processes only when somebody from outside coming to support us and to push us as a Strong Cities Network and the different projects and examples like that. From the local side, we have to involve ourselves more directly and to be more straight with our governments to cover these projects more powerful, especially to improve the national committees for the prevention of violent extremism and to make them more powerful, because in all of the situations, they're on the first place and they have to act as from the first position, and after that, the local governments and the municipalities as a second one. In Macedonian case, we have a different situation. As a municipalities, we start like a first one and the government follow us. So we have to push the governments more harder in this process, because the process of prevention is very important to protect the community, and to maybe sometimes we need to act as a soldiers and to cut some parts of the community if we are not successful in a reconciliation process. So that's my advice, and come to join us, dear colleagues, because we want to make a Strong Cities Network more powerful with all of our support that coming from outside. Thank you.
What humble words to end a very short and sweet panel of what I can only describe as hugely inspiring leaders to us all. And I think, Maksim, I think everybody should travel to Kumanovo and see the excellent leadership that you and the community action team have taken. And I think your call to action for us all to think about what more we can ask of our national governments and what more support we can get between these actors is crucial. And that moves us on quite helpfully to our very last speaker for today. So I would normally invite everybody to do a round of applause at the conclusion of such a lovely panel. So instead, I hope you can all join me in doing a tiny clap from your respective homes and time zones as we invite Ambassador Paul Foley to make an address that joins quite a lot of today's agenda together. For the past year, myself and Joe Downey, who you've met, and the Prevention Project have been working tirelessly with the Global Counter-Terrorism Forum and the governments of Australia and Indonesia to explore how we can strengthen local and national government coordination across these topics. And I'm delighted that our Good Practices document was formally adopted and accepted at the Global Counter-Terrorism Forum's Coordination Committee meeting held yesterday. So with that, I'd like to welcome Ambassador Paul Foley by video address, and also invite everyone to continue using the question and answers and inviting the panelists to comment directly to questions that I'm afraid we haven't had time to discuss today. Ambassador Paul Foley's video will commence shortly.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I regret that due to the time difference, I am not speaking with you in person. I would like to congratulate the Institute for Strategic Dialogue and all concerned on the 5th anniversary of the Strong Cities Network. The Strong Cities Network is making an important contribution to preventing and countering violent extremism. Cities and local governments have close relationships with communities and can be better placed than other levels of government to understand the needs of local communities, build social cohesion and identity, and resist the drivers of violent extremism. It is clear that the role of local government within the context of a whole of society approach is critical in preventing and countering violent extremism. In the Global Counter-Terrorism Forum, Australia, with our CVE Working Group co-chair Indonesia, has been delighted to work closely with the Institute for Strategic Dialogue and the Prevention Project on an initiative on national-local cooperation in preventing and countering violent extremism. More than 200 policymakers and practitioners from dozens of countries, including from national and local governments, non-government organisations, civil society, the private sector, academics and international organisations were able to participate in this initiative. We were particularly pleased that so many local government and civil society representatives were able to participate to ensure that their expertise was available to an international forum. The purpose of this initiative was the development of a non-binding good practices document, which was endorsed by the Global Counter-Terrorism Forum yesterday. The 13 good practices in this document are intended to inform and guide national governments and local actors in developing and implementing, preventing and countering violent extremism policies, plans and programs. Like all other aspects of our lives, preventing and countering violent extremism has been impacted by COVID-19. Travel disruptions and social distancing have posed challenges to international cooperation. But violent extremists remain connected online and are seeking to exploit the pandemic in both their messaging and local activities. These challenges won't disappear in a post-COVID world. As the UN Secretary-General recently said, there is an urgent need for global solidarity and calls for a reinvigorated commitment to multilateralism to combat terrorism and violent extremism. I hope that the Global Counter-Terrorism Forum Good Practices document on national-local cooperation in preventing and countering violent extremism, which builds on the work of the Strong Cities Network, makes a small contribution to this effort. Once again, I would congratulate the Institute for Strategic Dialogue on its anniversary and wish you all the best in your important work. Thank you.
And we much look forward to continuing the work with Ambassador Foley and his excellent team to look at implementing these good practices and lifting them from their paper into practice. And you'll see another poll that's just popped up, and that moves me nicely on to the final closing part of this formal agenda, which is to say a few very short words about what we hope to do next with the Strong Cities Network. And as many of our speakers have mentioned, we're delighted to say we'll be doing more of the same because it is so critical. And for that, I just want to provide some high-level announcements to conclude the event. Firstly, we have heard extensively today on the challenges that disinformation, COVID, and its intersection with extremism pose at the local level. Now, this will become a huge focus for us, and we will be launching a series of expert-led webinars alongside regional data sets and a dedicated range of online resources to explore and examine how these complex areas are overlapping and interacting at the local level. Also, a key theme from today, we're launching a post-incident toolkit that many of our speakers have fed into that seeks to try and look at the aftermath of an extremist attack and give cities advice today on what they can do to prepare for when tragedy strikes. And lastly, we'll be training a number of cities and setting up a range of referral mechanisms that seek to try and work with individuals at risk in a very specific one-to-one way, and to make sure that we're using the tools that lie outside of law enforcement, which is such a critical part of countering violent extremism. The second broad area, and what today represents for us, is looking at more opportunities to bring the network together. And whilst that might be remotely, we still recognise that it's so critical, and we can do so in such a stronger way virtually perhaps, and a much more environmentally friendly way too. So we'll be launching a series of webinars and videos, and as Sasha mentioned, I'm thrilled that we have an audience arranged for our mayors with His Holiness the Dalai Lama that will explore leadership in these times and the importance of compassion and kindness at that local level. We will be continuing our technical support and expanding that work actually into new geographies, looking at the work that we can do in Southeast Asia, Central Asia, and also excitingly to the United States. I'm really proud to announce today that we'll be partnering with a couple of organizations in the United States to launch a practitioners network over the next 2 years. And this is just an excellent opportunity for us to take the strong work that we've been doing around the world to our members in the United States. I know many of you are on the line today with us, and I look forward to doing that work with you all over the coming months. Now, these are just some of the priorities for us in the road ahead, but I must underscore that there is simply so much of our work that hasn't been showcased today. From the support we provide to civil society groups through small grants, which happen in London and in Bangladesh, to our Young Cities programme, which helps youth become ambassadors for change, and to the wealth of online resources we have on our hub in French and Arabic. And lastly, the partnerships we have that we haven't even had a time to look at today with incredible organisations like the Global Centre, the US Conference of Mayors, and Nordic Safe Cities. Each and every one of you on the line is a partner to us in some way, and we thank you for your support. And we're also incredibly grateful that you have borne with us whilst we try and strike a balance that is an incredibly hard balance between global breadth and local depth. And it pains us that we don't get to work with every single one of our members to the same degree. So before I formally close this event, a shockingly 25 minutes late, I thank you all for staying on the line, and I'm going to pass the floor in a moment to Daniel Houghton, who will just say a few words that you're very welcome to stay on the line for. But for the time being, I wish to ask you all to join me with a virtual and silent final round of applause to our government co-hosts, our inspirational mayors who have spoken from the heart today, and last but not least, to all of you and our friends from around the world who have joined us and brought our global family together in these treacherous times. It means the world to me and the team that we've come together to look at 5 years of incredible accomplishments. And I hope we all can clap to another 5 more. So here's to making our next meetup, hopefully in person. And Daniel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you very much. And look, another thank you to all of our speakers and guests today in what has been really an extraordinary testament to the efforts of the last 5 years as we've worked with so many of you. My name is Daniel Hooton. I'm here really to host an additional session that we wanted to put on the end of our formal agenda to give all the attendees and so many of our members who are joining from around the world the opportunity to put questions to our team. We have a very, very diverse team now spread across the UK, Jordan, Lebanon, Kenya, Bangladesh, North Macedonia, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Kazakhstan, really to support that in-depth piece of programming that Becky has spoken to, which means several different things to members in their own contexts, and which is certainly producing some very, very fruitful results, some of which we've heard about today. I wanted also to introduce at this moment my colleague Sabina Barton, who leads our Young Cities program. Sabina, perhaps you can give some introduction to Young Cities, but also I think to respond to some of the questions that we've had come through in the session just now around what we can do more to support youth engagement efforts. I know Mayor Climaco spoke to the urgent need for support to young people in particular and what more we could be doing. But interesting to hear, I think, how Young Cities offers one avenue through which we can promote young people as valuable actors on this issue. Sabina.
Hi Dan, thank you very much for the introduction. Yes, so those of you who are not yet familiar with the Young Cities program, it is a program that is funded by the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And it's really the SEN's local youth engagement program that complements all the other work that is going on with all the other city stakeholders on a local level. So we work very closely with young people themselves to support youth-led solutions to some of the key societal challenges that they want to see addressed on the local level. But then also really importantly, do not see young people in isolation, but connect them with local government stakeholders, other partners in civil society to support their efforts, but also importantly to create a shared understanding and build trust to jointly tackle some of those challenges. Because as we have heard over and over again, these are not challenges that one group or one actor can solve in isolation for each other, but that shared understanding is so key to develop jointly, to work jointly together to a common vision and a common goal that supports inclusion, social cohesion and harmony on the local level. So through the Strong Cities Network, we support youth-led solutions with grants and training programs and also with core seed funding for them to trial their own initiatives and activities. But then also connect them with local government stakeholders to support these activities and to together come up with ideas for new policies and programs that are more responsive to the needs of their local youth populations. And I would say to the question that I saw in the chat, when I look at across the network, one of the best practices that in the cities that have really done well in this field are those cities that think very creatively about the different types of young people that they're working with, that they're not seeing youth as a homogenized group, but have very clear strategies for engagement with the different types of local youth populations. So not just working with the activists to provide them with a platform, but also working with very diverse youth communities on really creative ways of how to engage them. That say, for example, in Vilvoorde, Mayabonte is a leading example of this through the engagement forums they have created with local police officers and young people directly affected by ISIS. In Mombasa and we have seen very innovative approaches working with local influencers, rappers, musicians to reach very hard to reach youth audiences. And the same in Dakar, who've done have been very creative in building local networks of youth volunteers who go out and push forward on youth sharing, developing a shared understanding of youth perceptions on extremism and how to raise awareness in a way that speaks to those diverse youth populations. So we're currently running the program across 8 cities, including with two of our founding members, Dakar and Mombasa. Yeah, and looking forward to sharing some of those outcomes over the next month to come.
Sabina, thank you. And it's really fantastic, I think, to reflect on how these projects are really, the evolution of a long-standing effort that some of these cities have made as part of their membership of the Strong Cities Network, really from the very beginning. Some of the cities that you mentioned joined us 5 years ago at the UN General Assembly, of course, to form this network. And it's great to see that commitment now taking the form of really in-depth, consistent programming at a very localized level on what are still, obviously, really pressing issues for many of our member cities. I wanted also to address, I know what is the most recent question, I think, coming through on our Q&A function, which I know in the context of Kenya, but perhaps we can discuss a little more widely, talks about how cities can respond to disinformation. Sasha talked about this in her introduction, and many of our guest speakers have noted the importance of tackling disinformation at a local level now that we see this dangerous proliferation of content throughout the COVID pandemic. The Strong Cities Network is making a number of efforts on several fronts. Today's call for support on behalf of the mayors that lead our network and the 4 mayors that you have seen speak today represents one major effort on the policy front to push this agenda and really to ask for support and cooperation around tackling disinformation, tracking disinformation, analyzing disinformation, and empowering those actors who are on the front line, those mayors, those cities who are already dealing with a protracted and unprecedented public health crisis and all of the economic and social fallout, to be able to understand and then to respond proactively, positively on a cohesion agenda against disinformation. To support that as a policy effort and as a political voice, come a number of practical measures that we're taking at a very grassroots level to support our cities in dealing with this proactively. That represents surveys that we are conducting currently to understand and analyze the extent, the nature, and the scope and the mechanisms of online disinformation at a very, very micro local level. We're doing that in Kumanovo, for example, in our partnership with Maksim and with our community action team there. We are also, through these surveys, of course, trying to assess what are the underlying susceptibilities, what are the drivers, and what are the factors that make a community susceptible to the influence of disinformation. Those two pieces of analysis, we think, are vital in terms of providing the contextual support and understandings to our mayors globally so that they can better understand and respond to this issue, which of course will remain a priority for some time to come. I also wanted just to turn to the issue of responding and supporting responses at a city level in the aftermath of incidents, in the aftermath of attacks. And here I wanted just to bring Becky back, if I think she's still with us on this screen, just to talk a little bit about the post-incident toolkit. Becky, hi, can you join on this issue?
Of course. Yes, just to say the post-incident toolkit is a real work in the making, where we've been interviewing a number of our members to try and understand what they were lacking when an incident happened. And we've got experiences from Kumanovo, Chattanooga, and many other cities that have fed into the creation of something that's quite specifically tailored at looking at community cohesion in the aftermath of an attack. And that will be published in the coming weeks. And we hope it will be a tremendous resource with some advice on what we should be doing now, not in what we should be taking and running after, unfortunately, tragedy strikes, which is often the case. And we've been tremendously inspired by one of our new members and the Mayor of Pittsburgh, who has given us some critical advice that has really shaped what the toolkit is made up of. So we offer quite a tremendous amount of advice from those who have indeed suffered and been in positions where they haven't had advice and they've had to respond on the spot.
Absolutely, and I think Mayor Berke spoke very passionately towards on this issue, and talking about how nothing can prepare you, nothing can teach you as a mayor, and how you should then respond and support your city in the immediate aftermath. And I think this is certainly something that you and I know mayors across our network have been calling for and are looking forward to working on as a mechanism, I think, to promote a lot of cooperation across agencies at the local level on how we can drive forward responses in the aftermath of incidents and attacks. So certainly a really critical resource to look out for as we continue to put out a number of different resources to members around the world. I also wanted to just draw attention to a number of other pieces of other toolkits, of the training modules that support mayors across a sort of spectrum of issues in addition to the post-incident toolkit. We have forthcoming toolkits supporting our East African members, in particular focusing on case studies with some of the great work from our members in Kenya that look at how you implement a local, or in that case, a county action plan, not just the development as a drafting process for a document, but actually how you mobilize support around this, credibility on this, and how you assess properly the roles and responsibilities. And Ambassador Kimani spoke, I think, very strongly on the need then for local authorities to reassess those roles on a consistent basis. So that is one toolkit we have coming out over the course of this year. Another for South Asian members that focuses on multi-agency cooperation and how that can look in the context of existing institutions across some of the municipalities, using our work with partners in Bangladesh, in Dhaka in particular, as a sort of informative case study on that issue. We also, it would be remiss of me to not to say, have a number of online training modules, some of those available in multiple languages, that deal with issues such as polarization, youth engagement, individual interventions, and local risk assessments, just to name a few, which are aimed both at mayors and mayoral policy support staff, but also critically at the frontline responders, whomever they may be in our local contexts. At this point, I just wanted also to issue a reminder to those of us still on the call here, just to ensure that any further questions you have for the team could be posted either in the chat box or the Q&A function here at the bottom of your screen. Great, okay, yes. And seeing another question here around our progress in Central Asia and what more we can do to support cities in Central Asia. We have, as Chris Harnisch pointed out, just been able to bring on a formal membership from 2 cities in the region. And this follows an effort to host a workshop at the end of last year that looked at local risk assessments and action planning processes. We are following this up not only with a membership drive and a consultation effort that aims to really understand the very nuanced, very complex and very contextualized issues that our cities face, but also we will be supplementing that with both an exchange, and you've heard a lot of talk about the bilateral partnerships that we have forged over the past 5 years, with many more to come. So there will be a further, I think, 3-city exchange in Central Asia that we are looking forward to, together with a special workshop devoted to national local cooperation on this issue. Becky has spoken, Ambassador Foley, of course, has spoken about our joint efforts on national local cooperation and need for more of this work to take place as really a prerequisite for effective empowered localized responses on prevention. So I hope that clarifies that. Any further points on Central Asia, I would encourage you to get in touch with my colleague Simeon, who coordinates that work from our HQ in London, and he can put you, of course, in touch with our partners and staff in the region as well. Becky, any other further points you think we need to address at this stage?
I think just to say, you know, we're a network for a reason. We want to be able to answer any questions you have. And I promise, together with the team, if we don't know the answer ourselves, we will know somebody who does. So I really encourage you to go onto our website, to contact us and email us and use us for any support that we can offer you. There is a lot more that we can do when we're asked directly specific questions, and as I hope this last part of today has shown. But with that, we're extraordinarily humbled that so many of you have been able to stay with us for such a long time, despite the time zones. And I promise we will make all of our events that little bit longer in the future, so we're not keeping anybody up and away from meetings. So with that, Daniel, Sabina and the team, thank you so much. I would just like to say a very personal thank you to Marta Lopes and Joe Downey, who have been the masterminds behind this event and behind our video and behind our wonderful new brochure that you will all receive. Please read and share the mayoral statement that we've produced. It outlines how we think the future and our work needs to engage with COVID. Please get in touch with us with our questions and tell us where we can be helpful. We can do more with the more knowledge we get from you all, so tell us where we are needed. Thank you so much for your participation today, and I'd love to formally close the event with another virtual round of applause and wish you all a good day. Thank you so much.